Welcome, Dr. Ishiki, Futaba. Please, make yourselves comfortable. Can I offer you something to drink? Tea, perhaps?
Ooh, your place is neat, Neo. Tea sounds good. Hi, Mona.
Hello, Futaba-chan. Don't mind the mess.
Good evening, Akechi-kun. So today's the day, isn't it? Yes, tea would be lovely, thank you.
I appreciate you both coming. We've taken all necessary precautions, and everything is ready for our venture into the cognitive world. Just an in and out, as promised. As it's still early evening, perhaps we could take this opportunity to have a little chat. Dr. Ishiki, have you had time to ponder our previous discussion? Any questions or perhaps some new insights on dreams?
Oh, Akechi-kun. I've been swamped in research ever since our last meeting, and it's been exhilarating. I've been exploring the possible connections between the cognitive world and dreams, and there's such a wealth of scientific knowledge that correlates. I must say, I pulled some all-nighters on how dreams work. It's fascinating. And what about you? Have you successfully returned to this realm?
I've done so on several occasions. On second thought, I think we'd better talk about the cognitive world itself once we get there. Let's focus on your research for now, shall we? I must admit, the subject of dreams is a complete mystery to me. I don't know how our brain can produce such vivid images on its own. Would you mind enlightening us on the scientific aspects?
That's what I'm here for, isn't it? Let's start with the basics. Dreams are generated in a part of the brain called the pons, which communicates with the cerebral cortex where most of our thinking occurs. The cortex constructs the dreams from our subconscious, making them an ideal playground for understanding cognitive science, actually. It's a shame I didn't delve into this earlier.
Well, you couldn't have known. Please go on. You mentioned the pons? I find it fascinating to understand the scientific aspects of cognition.
I'll admit, with all my knowledge of the cognitive world, I'm a complete newbie in this field. Even Akira never really got to ask a scientist about it.
How surprising, given that one of them was killed by my hands, and the other has gone mad with a god complex.
I'll happily oblige. The pons plays a crucial role in REM sleep, the stage where dreaming predominantly occurs. The role of the pons is mainly to serve as a message station between various parts of the brain, particularly those that govern consciousness and bodily functions. During REM sleep, the pons sends signals to the cerebral cortex, the part of the brain responsible for thought processing, spatial reasoning, and sensory perception, among other things. So, in layman's terms, you could say the pons acts like a director on a movie set, cueing the cerebral cortex to start the production. The cerebral cortex, already full of material from your experiences, memories, and thoughts, weaves these disparate elements into a narrative. Your dream.
I see. You have a way of explaining the most complicated subjects in simple terms, Doctor. And these narratives our brain creates are usually a mix of our own memories and randomness, aren't they? Why do they seem so fantastical?
It may seem random, as you put it, but it would be more accurate to say that researchers have yet to comprehend the full extent of how dreams are created. Dreams provide a unique opportunity to access the subconscious mind, often revealing fears, desires, or repressed memories. The brain constructs these dream scenarios from fragments stored in your subconscious. That being said, these dreamscapes can be very revealing, and cognitive scientists and psychologists sometimes turn to dreams as a way to understand neural processes, mental health conditions, or even as a tool for psychotherapy. Dreams can potentially offer a pathway for self-reflection and even self-transformation. It's a complicated dance of neurobiology and psychology, all occurring in the depths of your brain while you're none the wiser, asleep in your bed. Speaking of which, can you tell me more about what exactly happens when you transition from the waking world to the cognitive one? Are you aware of the shift?
Honestly, Dr. Ishiki, it's quite seamless. I don't necessarily acknowledge a shift. I simply drift into sleep like anyone else. And before I know it, I find myself waking up in the cognitive world.
So it's like a dream within a dream, huh?
One might say so, yes. The first time was different, though. That was a lucid dream where I was aware that I was dreaming. I navigated my subconscious, which eventually led me to physically crossing over into the cognitive world. But subsequent experiences haven't been that intricate. I just wake up there.
Fascinating. If you wake up directly in the cognitive world, that suggests that you don't reach the deeper stages of sleep. The transition likely occurs during the light sleep phase.
And why would you think that's the case?
Oh, I really want to run some tests on you now, you know? Well, to put it simply, light sleep is characterized by theta wave activity. It's a state of heightened receptivity, which makes it easier for the subconscious mind to access alternative states of consciousness, or in your case, different realities. The fact that you transition before you've had the chance to enter REM sleep, let alone deep sleep, is telling. This lends credence to a theory of mine that your cognitive jumps are happening in a state dominated by theta waves.
Okay, I'm lost.
I'll admit it's intricate indeed. So, what you're suggesting is that I don't even reach REM sleep, most commonly associated with dreaming, before making the transition to the cognitive world.
I'll definitely have to run some tests, but if what you're saying is accurate, you're basically bypassing the stage commonly thought to be for dreaming and entering the cognitive world during the earliest phases of sleep.
And, does that matter? Is it important that the shift into the cognitive world doesn't happen in REM sleep, but in light sleep?
Oh yes it is, Akechi-kun. Because if theta waves are the underlying mechanism here, it's not just sleep that can generate them. Deep meditative states and certain auditory stimuli like binaural beats could potentially achieve the same result.
So like Akechi could go into a Zen state and just whoosh into the cognitive world?
Wow, really?
That's an avenue worth exploring. Being limited to entering the cognitive world only through sleep is impractical, especially when time or circumstance doesn't permit it.
Right, we can't have you trying to take a nap in the middle of a crisis.
And it will also make it easier to get back to the real world.
My thoughts exactly. How did you manage to get back until now?
I put him to sleep. Sometimes I feel like that's my life's purpose. Making sure people fall asleep.
I use the equivalent of an instant sleep pill in the cognitive world, and it's worked so far.
So many questions. I can't wait to see it for myself, Akechi-kun. Your power defies everything we know about the human mind, you know.
Do you mean that even if the cognitive world could be explained scientifically, there's an element of the supernatural?
I don't like the word supernatural. I could try to explain based on my research, but it's complex.
Try me.
Are you sure? We don't know anything about neurology.
What is life if not a constant pursuit of new knowledge?
Oh well, it's not often I get to share my passion with someone so young and interested. In fact, I think you're the first since Futaba.
Neo just likes to show off. Let's see how many minutes it takes for him to doze off.
Go ahead, Doctor.
All right then. As you may know, the sleep cycle is composed of various stages starting from light sleep to deep sleep, and then finally to REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. This cycle repeats several times during a typical night. In the earlier stages of sleep, the brain waves slow down, your core body temperature drops, and physiological activities like heart rate decrease. This is the non-REM sleep stage. However, as the night progresses, the sleep cycle evolves. Your brain begins to show increased activity comparable to when you're awake. That's when you shift, Akechi-kun. But instead of proceeding normally, your brain just forks away from the natural procedure.
The natural procedure being what triggers this shift in the first place?
Jeez, I bet you were the kid who reminded the teacher about homework at the end of class, weren't you?
Got a problem with that? So what triggers the shift, Doctor?
What triggers this shift indeed? Well, it's a combination of neurotransmitters and specialized neurons that control your sleep-wake cycle. The ventrolateral preoptic nucleus, a cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus, plays a key role in initiating sleep. as you
Time
move
for a
through
tactical
the non-REM
retreat.
stages.
I don't
Another
understand
part
what
of
she
your
says
brain
anymore.
called the reticular activating system, or RAS, begins to gear up. This system is what helps wake you up, but during REM it partially activates, allowing for vivid dreams but keeping the rest of your body essentially paralyzed to prevent you from acting them out. The pons, the part we mentioned earlier, sends signals to inhibit motor neurons, ensuring you don't physically move during dreams.
But it's easy, though. You see when you dream how you're under the impression that you're moving, walking, doing stuff, but your body stays inert in your bed? Your brain basically uses an imaginary rope to tie your body.
Oh, I see. Thank you, Trinity. So, the same must occur when I'm wandering into the cognitive world, but stays inert in my bed, right?
Yes, and that's why I'm saying you defy how the human mind is supposed to work. From what you're saying, you're basically following the same chemical process a normal person does, but instead of going down the common dream path doing so, you delve into the cognitive world. I can't grasp how it's possible.
It makes me think, what about sleepwalking then? Is it tied to a defective pons that can't tie the body up properly? Is there any possibility my real body might move on its own while I'm out there in the cognitive world? More precisely, what I'm asking is, if something brutal happens to my cognitive body, will it happen to my real counterpart as well? Or the other way around?
Yeah, it's different from before, isn't it? With the metanav, there weren't two bodies. No dissociation. If you got injured in the cognitive world, you were in the real world too when you came back. But now, it's like you're basically borrowing a cognitive envelope of yourself.
I wonder what this little cat is, saying. And that's an excellent question. The phenomenon of sleepwalking is tied to disturbances in the brain's normal mechanisms that should paralyze your muscles during REM sleep. The mechanisms you're describing could theoretically allow for movement, given that they're not part of standard REM sleep. However, we'll have to conduct tests to be certain. As for your second question, it's hard to say if your physical body would manifest injuries from the cognitive world. We'll probably have to test that too.
You seem rather enthusiastic about the prospect of running these particular experiments. Is it only because the unknown variables excite you?
Oh, I won't deny it. The pursuit of knowledge often requires pushing boundaries, and in a case like yours, which defies conventional understanding, it's irresistibly fascinating.
Pushing boundaries. Yes, I've heard that's a particular specialty of yours, Dr. Ishiki.
I take it as a compliment. After all, it's not every day you meet someone as unique as you. To understand the human mind is my life's work. And you are an intriguing puzzle piece.
As long as my mind doesn't suffer unbearable pain under your testing, I'm all for it.
I think you two might have a lot to offer each other.
Nah, you're right to be afraid, Neo. Mom can be really ruthless when it comes to work.
But I always keep it ethical, don't I?
Sure, I inherited that from you after all.
Let's get ready then.